Hi cuties. So last night I beat Conscript, and I swear to God when the credits rolled I was looking at my monitor with that 1,000-yard stare, bruh. Never have I ever played a war game of this caliber. I'd say it's like if All Quiet on the Western Front got a video game adaptation or some shit. A beautifully bleak, hardcore ass top-down pixel art video game about the horrors of war and one of the best retro style games I've played next to Crow Country and Signalis. Let's just get straight into this motherfucker, okay? So, Conscript was developed by one feller named Joseph Mochi, I hope I said that right, you legend, and he cooked this hoe up since 2017, saying that he feels like he was put on Earth just to make this video game right here. And I'll say, you did your damn thing, brother. Conscript isn't like your typical retro survival horror game. It doesn't really have any genuine jump scares or zombies. What's scary is entering into a random ass dark room without a torch and having to scurry around in pitch black darkness hoping there ain't an enemy combatant ready to shove their bayonet into your spleen, bitch. So basically, the story is obviously taking place in 1916 during World War I, and you play as this French fella named Andre. And really, the goal of the game is to just find your brother Pierre. The first chapter, you'll be trudging through muddy-ass trenches, tripping over motherfuckers with no legs and shit in the thick of the war. And it's a huge contrast to what 90% of the game actually is. It's essentially a Metroidvania where you're gonna do a lot of backtracking through the many areas. And it's not just trenches either, surprisingly. When I first opened up the big-ass maps of trenches, I was like, oh damn, this is about to be the whole game. But there's really so much more to be explored. However, I will not spoil because I need you to experience this video game in its entirety blind. Andre isn't the most talkative protagonist or personable, but he is a great vessel to carry the plot forward, especially in the flashback sequences that happen in between chapters. Something usually happens to start one of these flashbacks in a beautiful rural area that dives deep into Andre and Pierre's home life before they were drafted. It is hella depressing seeing them be happy young adults before being forced into the draft, and little hint, just in case you do play this game, make sure you pay attention during these flashbacks for one of the secret endings, bitch. Yeah, that's another thing. In typical retro horror fashion, there is multiple endings here. I'm not exactly sure the criteria, but I do know there's certain times where you can make Andre be a coward-ass bitch and abandon his post. There's various other choices you can make too that'll impact your playthrough, like letting soldiers bum some of your smokes, maybe helping a medic, and more. But for those of you who are like, man, what the fuck is the gameplay like? Honestly, I'd say it's like if Signalis and Resident Evil both had a child with Medal of Honor, and then they adopted Silent Hill on the side. It brings a lot of great aspects from all those franchises, like you get a backpack with inventory slots to sort, there's also a merchant, and when you do trades with him, the achievement you unlock is literally called What Are You Buying? The Signalis comparison is due to the aiming feature in this game, so you can't really go buck wild in this bitch doing crazy trick shots and shit. You actually have to be stationary and allow your aim to focus for a few seconds to get an accurate shot or a hit off. Sometimes Andre will be shaking and shit, which messes up the aim more and more, and that leads to some tense combat scenarios. And for the most part, I thought it was great. It's not the best aiming system ever, and I feel like the bullets kind of randomly spray all over the place like Fortnite sometimes. It was serviceable enough though. Stealth is pretty mid, all things considered. I mean, there's no crouch or slow walk animation, and sometimes if you're not in an enemy's field of view, you can deadass sprint right by them because I don't think they really react to any sound you make besides gunshots. Also, this is kind of random, but like if there's an enemy by a door, you can enter the room, hit him, leave, enter the room, hit his ass again, leave, and that's just like a super easy strat to do that I honestly had to cheese sometimes because this game gets fucking hard, y'all. I played on veteran with limited ink ribbon saves like the classic Resident Evil games and no checkpoints, so your boy may or may not have got set back like an hour or two a couple of times. I don't know, you didn't hear from me, bitch. The enemy variety is actually pretty awesome here. You got melee soldiers, rifle bayonet soldiers, and even fuckers with flamethrowers who serve as the mini-bosses, I suppose. I mean, for a World War I game, it's as diverse as it's gonna get, to be honest. That also applies to the weapon variety here. I mean, there's a few pistols, shotguns, and rifles, and even an upgrade path system for the guns using parts you find around the map. When you're not in combat, like I said, the game is kind of a Metroidvania where you're going to be eyeballing the map, trying to find which key to unlock which door, and find codes for combination locks, and they implement that Silent Hill map system of marking where you have been, and which doors have those specific locks that you gotta look for. Y'all, the atmosphere of this game though, I mean, for such a dark, gritty, nasty setting, the pixel art is so gorgeous, and the sounds are super crispy, like listen to this walking on rocks or some shit sound. Beautiful. I mean, there's so many key quality of life things, like when you kill soldiers, sometimes rats will scurry to their corpses and you gotta run from them because they're carrying a nasty ass plague, or perhaps you're just walking around and you hear random screams in the distance because you are, of course, in a war-torn setting after all. Like I said earlier though, in terms of the overall horror, I'd say the tone and heart is there, but it really isn't that frightening. I mean, in my god-honest, correct Jack the Ripper opinion, I would even say that the fear factor of a game like Spec Ops The Line, which has similar themes, could be more scary to some just in terms of what that game is presenting. Conscript really doesn't go balls deep like Spec Ops, where it makes you regret the copious amounts of killing you're doing for seemingly no reason at all. As a matter of fact, it feels like it's encouraged for you to kill as many motherfuckers as you possibly see in this bitch. You can definitely tell that Joseph, the developer, was a big history buff though, as there's cool little Easter eggs like these propaganda posters based off real ones back in them days, and he said he even flew to Verdun to get some inspiration for the later levels in the game, which is dope as hell. Also, I was incredibly surprised by how long this hoe was. If you've played any of the Resis or Hills, you know your journey is usually over in about 8-ish hours, and even shorter than that if you a nasty demon at the game. Conscript, however, I can say I clocked in about 14 hours. Granted, I'm a dumbass and died a few times, which reset my progress, but still, I was baffled at how long this $20 indie game is, but to some, it may start to get a little repetitive at the end, especially with all the walking around that you do. There will be moments with zero combat, and simply you're just walking around trying to find key objectives, and it's not all bombastic war action time, and 90% of the time, that was okay with me. Conscript isn't a perfect game. I never really felt like I was running low on ammo or gunpowder or heals, and a lot of the combat encounters can simply be avoided by holding square and running past them dumbasses, but it makes up for it because it feels like a beautiful love letter written to this style of video game. RE4 mechanics with RE1's map design in a disgusting world war full of despair makes for a great time, albeit one that's not that spooky. It's already one of the best World War I video games ever, right next to Battlefield 1 and Amnesia the Bunker, and that's simply because this really was an untapped market in my eyes. But yeah, that's Conscript. If you are a fan of the genre in the slightest, I promise you're going to have a blast with this video game. There is a demo available if you'd like to try it out, and I believe it's pretty much on every console ever, and I can't recommend it enough. As far as the certified Ripper ranking system, I would love to plug this debut video game at a solid 8 rips out of 10 rips. For $20, you cannot complain with what you get here. Allegedly, Jordan is a little interested in developing some DLC for the game if the sales are good, so go give this man your money right now and tell him the Ripper sent you. But yeah, that's about it, my cuties. Thank you all for 723 subscribers. That's so fucking many. I love you guys to death, bro. I hope you like this video because this game took a chunk of my soul away, okay? It gave me PTSD. Go ahead and drop a bayonet on the like button, maybe some poison gas on the subscribe, and I love you guys. Bye!